Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to install OSX on a Windows PC through virtualization. If you already have a Mac or you're running OSX on your machine already, you don't need this video at all, so go straight on to the next chapter, start downloading Xcode and working with Swift straight away. So before we start, I just want to clarify what we're going to do. OSX is an operating system made by Apple designed to run on Mac computers, just like Windows. Now you need OSX to be able to make iOS apps because Xcode, the software that allows you to make iOS apps, only runs on OSX. But you can install it on a Windows machine. And the process that we're going to use to do that is called virtualization. Essentially, that just means running an operating system on your computer. So it effectively turns your Windows computer into a Mac, which is great if you want to run iOS apps. If you switch quickly to the next lecture, you'll see that it's a PDF which contains a number of links and a bit more information than I'm going to go through on this video about the whole process of installing OSX. So I definitely strongly recommend reading that before you continue with this video. All done? Okay, let's get started. I'm going to begin by just showing you a few of the different bits of software that you'll need to run this. And the first one, and kind of central to the whole thing, is VMware Player. So VMware essentially allows you to create what's known as a virtual machine in your computer. And that's exactly what we were just talking about. It allows you to run OSX, a different operating system, on your Windows machine. You download it from this page, just this big first download link here, and it's completely free. You'll also need what's known as the Hardware Assisted Virtualization Detection Tool. Again, it's a free tool that you can download from Microsoft.com, and it will tell you if your computer is compatible with hardware assisted virtualization. If it's not, then there are a few options that you can go forward with, but they are detailed in the document in the next lecture. So when we get to that stage, you'll know whether or not you need to take further action. And the third bit of software is WinRAR. That you'll likely need to extract some of the software that you download, and WinRAR is a bit of software that will allow you to do that. It's reasonably straightforward. The final thing that you need is a copy of OSX itself. That's slightly more complicated to get hold of, so please have a look in the document in the next lecture for full details as to how to get that. Okay, so in my OSX installation folder, I have three things. There's my Mavericks image. A disk image is just something that allows you to run the operating system itself. I've got my detection tool, and I've got my VMware Player. So I'm going to start by double-clicking on my detection tool and then clicking Run and allowing it to run on my computer. And the good news is this computer is configured with hardware-assisted virtualization. So if you get this message, then everything is fine. It's very likely that you're going to be able to run OSX on your machine. So click OK. If you don't get that message or you get a different message, then have a look at the document in the next lecture, which will give you a few ways to deal with that. Remember that if you have problems installing OSX and you just can't get it to run on your Windows machine, I will completely refund the cost of this course. Just drop me a message. Okay, so assuming that you've had a success with the detection tool, we're now going to install VMware Player. So I'm just going to click yes there. I'm just going to run through everything, just choosing the default options. Nothing too complicated here. Continue, and then it should install reasonably quickly. There we go. You can see that the icon has appeared on my desktop there. So if we run that, you can see we can create a new virtual machine, open a new one, etc., etc. There is a later version. I'm just going to ignore that for now. If you've downloaded it fresh, then there shouldn't be another version. You should have the latest one. So I'm going to close that down because we don't need it quite yet. And now I'm going to go into the OSX Mavericks image folder. You should get this folder as well. This VMware Unlocker folder is something that you might use if you have problems with the hardware virtualization earlier on in the video, but we're going to ignore that. I'm going to assume that everything's gone okay. What we do need to do is run the VMware unlocker. So by default, VMware will only allow you to run Windows and Linux. So we need a bit of software which allows us to run OS X as well. It's pretty straightforward. Just double click on there. I'm going to go for the VMware 8, 9 and 10 series, and we want the Windows unlocker. So we just right click on install.cmd and run as administrator. If you just try to run it, it won't work. You need to run it as administrator and then click yes, and it'll do some bits and bobs which just unlock VMware to allow you to run OS X on it. Okay, and that's pretty much it. I'm going to go back into the main folder, click on OS X Mavericks. You can see we've got this really big file here. That's where the data is stored, and the one that I actually want to run is this .vmx file. So that's the file which will open in VMware Player and run OS X Mavericks for us. So I'm just going to double click on that, and you should find, I'm going to skip the version again, that you get a nice Apple logo there, and then it'll start with the loading screen. The first time you run it, it probably will take quite a long time because it actually has to install and set up OS X. So be prepared for this screen to appear for possibly several minutes, depending on how fast your computer is. And there we go. You see it's got me straight into OS X Mavericks here. You might get straight in, or you might have to enter some setup options, just choosing your country, entering an Apple ID if you have one, etc, etc. But now I'm running OS X, as you can see. I can just double click on the Finder and it all works in the way you expect. So if this is the first time you've done this, I definitely recommend playing around with VMware Player a little and finding out what you can do with it. Resolutions are a useful thing to play with to make sure it looks good on your screen. Going full screen is a really good way of running OS X as well. It makes your computer feel like it's a native Mac. And I'd also recommend just having an introduction to the Mac or OS X software, because it does work slightly differently to Windows. So you'll have to get used to different keystrokes for shortcuts and various other bits and pieces. So do have a little play around, but once you've got it up and running and you're comfortable with it, then jump straight onto the next chapter and I'll show you how to download Xcode and create apps with Swift.